Hello everyone, welcome to Getting Started with MuleSoft Accelerators. In this session, we will cover what are accelerators, how can they help in your integration journey, how to get started with them, and finally, we will see a demo on how to download an asset from Anypoint Exchange and test it in Anypoint Studio. MuleSoft accelerators are pre-built technical assets such as API specifications and implementation templates and blueprints specifically built to help you solve key use cases across multiple industries. We offer accelerators for consumer goods, data cloud, financial services, healthcare, life sciences, manufacturing, retail, and SAP. We looked at the most common problems customers want to solve and the most common initiatives they're embarking on, and provided a starting point for solving those use cases in pre built solutions that you can use and customize right away. Now that we have covered the overview of accelerators, let's review the documentation on how to get started. There are a few prerequisites to be set up in your local workstation before you begin to work with accelerators. This is a requirement to deploy these assets to your own environment. As you can see in our documentation, we have provided detailed steps on how to install each of these in your workstation. Once the build environment is set up, the next step is to configure the settings-accelerators.xml file to work with assets that are common between accelerators. To get started on using these assets, you must start with Accelerator's Common Resources project. This project provides Maven build profiles for shared assets. It also includes scripts, project-specific config files, and Postman collections used for environment setup and testing. Let's download this project and unarchive it, and open the settings-accelerators.xml file in the editor of your choice. Edit the file to update the global settings org to point to your organization. Update the runtime properties under the Cloud Hub dev profile and enter the credentials for all the servers as highlighted here. Let's set up the Maven in Anypoint Studio to point to the updated settings-accelerators.xml file. Under Settings, select Anypoint Studio, click on Maven User Settings, check the box for Override User Settings path, and provide the path to the settings-accelerators.xml file that we just updated. Now that the prerequisites and the build environment is set up successfully, let's choose an asset to download. Shared assets are common assets for YAML libraries, API specs, and implementation templates for system and process APIs that are common between different accelerators. Let's review the accelerator Slack system API. As you can see, every asset has API spec and its implementation template. Let's take a look at the implementation template. Every asset has detailed documentation on the prerequisites that are needed to connect to the backend application or system. It also has documentation on the deployment properties that are needed to successfully build, test, and deploy in your own environment. There are two ways to import this project in Anypoint Studio. You could download the jar file here and manually import it in Anypoint Studio, or open it in Studio directly from Exchange. Let's try the second option. Enter the credentials for Exchange and search for Slack system. Select and import the Accelerator Slack System API implementation template. Open the implementation template in Anypoint Studio. Once the project is successfully imported, you can see the project structure on the left. You can see all the endpoints supported as part of this application. The configuration properties are set up under source main resources, and the munits are provided under source test munits. The API specification is also downloaded as a dependency from Exchange. The mule artifact.json file highlights the secure properties that are needed to securely connect to the backend application. You can also use the provided deployment scripts to deploy to your own Cloud Hub environment. In order to test this application, the token needs to be set up in Slack as documented in the prerequisites of the implementation template in Exchange. Enter the Slack access token as a VM argument in the configurations of the Mule application. Save and run the application. Once the application is successfully built and deployed, it can be tested using the provided Postman collections under source test resources. Import the collection into Postman and edit the variables to point to the host of the locally deployed application. Try out the endpoints that come with sample payload requests. The health check endpoints checks for the status of the backend Slack application and the post message endpoint posts a sample message to the provided channel in Slack. Here in the Slack channel, we see that the message is successfully posted. This brings us to the conclusion of our introduction video on how to download and use Accelerator Asset in your own environment. Here are some suggested next steps. Take a look at all the accelerators currently available by visiting the accelerators homepage at docs.mulesoft.com. Review the application deployment and application testing sections of the Getting Started guide. Configure your settings.xml file to deploy and test an asset in your own Cloud Hub environment. Download an API specification and import it to your own Design Center org so you can modify it and publish the changes to your local exchange for consumption. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.